friends, today I'm bringing you something absolutely divine for your Valentine's Day celebrations. These espresso chocolate and raspberry cookies are the kind of cookies that make people fall absolutely in love with you, or at least your baking. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. We've got more beautiful Valentine's Day treats coming up for you this week, and we don't want you to miss them. Let's get started. I've got everything at room temperature, which really is the secret to making fantastic cookies. We're starting with 2 sticks of unsalted butter. That's 1 cup. We're adding in 1 cup of granulated sugar. Now the full recipe for this will be linked down below in the description box. Now you can see that the butter and sugar mixture is nice, light and fluffy, and a pale primrose yellow. Now let's go ahead and add in our 1 egg, our vanilla bean paste. Always use real, never imitation. And we'll beat these in until well combined. Now this mousse-like consistency of our butter, sugar, egg, and vanilla mixture are all ready to go and well combined. Let's go ahead and add in our dry ingredients, our cocoa powder, our flour, and of course our espresso powder. Now we're adding espresso powder not because we want to make the cookies taste like coffee, rather because coffee just adds a depth of flavor and just makes everything taste so much more intensely of itself, which really lends itself well when paired with chocolate. I'm going to briefly give this a mix with my spatula just to help prevent all of the flour from puffing up right into my face with the mixer. And then we'll go ahead and beat this with our mixer until it's just combined. I'm beating everything on low speed, but to ensure that everything incorporates well and that I have a nice and rich textured dough that isn't too dry, I have just a small insurance policy, and that's a little bit of heavy cream. So I'm gonna add a tablespoon in just to ensure that my dough is nice and supple and isn't a dry cookie at the end of baking. I've lined my baking sheet with a Silpat, or you could easily use parchment paper, and I've preheated my oven to 350 degrees. You're going to roll the dough into about 2 teaspoon-sized balls. Just be sure to space them about 1 inch apart. You'll roughly yield in this recipe about 36 cookies. Now, using the back of a teaspoon, I'm going to make indentations into the center of each cookie. And these will spread, so don't worry if it's not perfectly centered. Now, these go in the oven for about 7 to 8 minutes, and you're going to rotate the cookie sheet about halfway through cooking. Let's go ahead and pop them in. Perfect. Now, sometimes the indentations puff up in the oven, but never mind, that happens. Gently press them back down while they're still warm, nothing to worry about. I'm gonna go ahead and transfer these now over to a wire rack. We're gonna allow them to cool slightly before we add in our raspberry jam. I'm using 3/4 of a cup of a really good quality raspberry jam. This is not the time for something that is more sugar than fruit. You want something that is bright and acidic and full of raspberry flavor that's going to cut through all that rich chocolate. Once the cookies are cooled completely, I'm going to add about 1 teaspoon of jam into the indentation of each cookie. Look at that beautiful ruby color. There's something so meditative about the simple act of filling up each cookie. It's quite tranquil, really. Now these go in the freezer for about 10 to 15 minutes to allow the jam to firm up just a bit, so that way when we pour that warm ganache coating over the top, the jam doesn't melt and slip around. While we're waiting, let's talk ganache. Now this is almost criminally simple, but I'm taking 8 ounces of chocolate. I'm using dark chocolate, but semi-sweet works well too. And I'm going to pour over about 1/3 cup of heavy cream. I'm going to pop this in the microwave in 30-second intervals until the chocolate is fully melted. Now I love the deep intensity of dark chocolate, but to help lift it just a little bit, we're going to add in some espresso powder, as well as vanilla bean paste. There's something absolutely satisfying watching something like this come together. The aroma of the vanilla and the espresso powder is just so glorious. It smells divine in here. Now that our ganache is all ready, let's go ahead and grab our cookies out of the freezer and let's continue to fill them so we can eat them. All right, now we're gonna go ahead and spoon over this beautifully glossy ganache right on top of our jam. You just want to make sure that you swirl the chocolate delicately over the top of the cookie to hide that surprise of raspberry jam. And because of course this is chocolate, no need to scrimp. This is about decadence and deliciousness. It's about making sure that there's ample and enough just for those for whom you love. It is Valentine's Day after all. And now for a final flourish. Let's go ahead and top each cookie with a sprinkle of crushed, freeze-dried raspberry. This gives another hint to the raspberry flavor while also providing that stunning, bright pink, magenta, jewel tone pop right on top. Now the hardest part about making these cookies is waiting for the ganache to set so we can take a bite. Look at these. These are deeply chocolatey. They're slightly bitter from the coffee, sweet from the ganache, tart from the jam, and then there's that burst of brightness from the raspberry, both in the jam and from the dusting on top. If you love this video, please give this video a thumbs up. It'll help more people discover these absolutely gorgeous cookies. And I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Are you team dark chocolate or semi-sweet? What are you baking for Valentine's Day this year? If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. We've got more beautiful Valentine's Day treats coming up for you this week, and we don't want you to miss them. Until next time, happy baking, friends. Bye!